Hi, everyone. So honored to be here with Michelle McVitie, a dear friend and colleague. Thanks so much, Michelle, for joining today.
I love being here. Thank you for having me.
Michelle is started a company called Mom the Manager, and she's an author as well and a parenting coach. But tell us a little bit about yourself and how you support parents in their journey.
Yeah, so I'm a child life specialist, a parenting coach. I'm a speaker and an author. So I wrote the book, I Quit, Oh Wait, I'm the Mom. So I help parents individually doing parent coaching. I have a self-paced course called, They Never Listen. I have downloadables that I created, my book, my blogs. I'm all over Instagram. So I also have a Facebook group for parents called Overworked to Overjoyed. And it's a safe space where I can support parents for free, giving them tips, answering their questions. So lots of different ways to connect with me.
Incredible. And you really help with, behaviors of children of all ages, as well
Yes.
as supporting new parents or expecting parents or
Mhm.
old time parents like us.
Mhm.
And you even help with basic things like potty training, which is incredible too. So you really do a lot to support the community. So
Yeah.
today's topic is resiliency. And
Mhm.
first, let's start off what the heck is resiliency? What does that even
Yeah.
mean when it comes to our
Yeah.
kids?
Yeah. So resiliency is the ability to bounce back. So when things are hard in life, it's being able to get back up, see it as a learning opportunity, and move forward. So there are some people that are born resilient and some that are not. The good thing is that you can teach resiliency. It's understanding that one child in your house can be very resilient and one child cannot. So it's not a personal attack on you as a parent, it's who they are. But we just have to be more aware of where the struggle is and what are those tools that a child needs. Because resiliency is about emotional regulation, about having relationships, about problem solving. So it's all those skills that for some people come very easily. You look at someone that has maybe grown up in a broken home or with parents that are not supportive to them, maybe in a community that is very unsafe, and then they still do well, right? You see some famous people that have come from poverty, that have come from very abusive households, or just been in very, very difficult circumstances. It hasn't broken them. They move forward, and it's because they are resilient. So it's about wrapping around a child, especially if they aren't resilient, but it's not just about the core person. So it's me as a person makes me resilient and what tools I have. And then it's who is around me. So my caregivers, that kind of thing. And then my community. So even where I live in the neighborhood that I live in, the school I go to. So it's three separate steps that really wrap around a child.
That's great. Well, let's talk about some of those tools. What sort of tools can you put in their toolbox to
Mhm.
help them? I'm sure this is something that starts at a young age, but also will continue on as they get older. So I don't know if those tools will change, but if they do, maybe you can share a couple for each stage of what we'd be doing as parents to help that.
Yeah. So, with resiliency, what we're looking at is, why is a child struggling? So, what are those things they're struggling with, right? So, one of them could be, that their relationships are not that strong. So that comes down to social skills, and do they know how to make friends? How are they with keeping friends? Do they understand perception of what the other person might be going through? How do they interact with their sibling? Do they have empathy and compassion? And sometimes what happens with children that struggle, we don't give them a lot of compassion and understanding, yet we expect the child to have understanding and compassion. So children learn what they live. Teaching social skills is really tough. It's usually in the moment, point of performance, that you are kind of facilitating that. Having a code word when a child has been said something inappropriate, like, hey, Debbie, you've got a unibrow, which you don't. But, that's an inside thought.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to say something like the word filter. And when you hear the word filter, I'm going to take that back. So this is older. But when they're younger, we want to watch them as well because they're doing a lot of parallel play. But when they start getting to that 3 and 4-year-old level, we're starting to watch how they're playing, how they're interacting. Are they taking over? Are they being very timid? Do they have leadership qualities, or do they just follow whatever just to fit in? So those skills, and it's having conversations, teaching children how to listen, how to ask questions. It can go on, but those are really strong things for a child. For resiliency, because your IQ is a very small percentage of what will give you success in life. There are billionaires that probably don't even have, a university or college degree. They are people, what's the word I'm looking for? They're good with people.
The social. Yeah. Well, and this is the thing, resiliency is a really important topic because there's so many adults who are struggling with this, in their adult years. And you and I have talked about this, and I'm sure at some point in our adult life, we've worked on this. We were talking about this before we even hit record, where, it's a struggle sometimes to think about things that are ongoing and changing and how we deal with them and how we react to them.
Yes.
So it is something that if we can teach our children that things are going to change or things are going to be hard, and give them the tool to calm, to assess, to review, and then to react. Those are great things to try and give them. So does that change? So from, say, a child who's under 5 to a child who's over 10, does that change on our part of what we can do as parents to help them?
Well, yes, because social skills are going to look different when we're 3 and 4. What happens is, as children grow, they become less and less tolerant of that child that is a ball hog, that doesn't allow anybody to play, like, it's my way or the highway, that has their emotional regulation is really bad, and they have temper tantrums if they can't win, or they didn't get that shot. It was their goal and someone didn't give them the credit for it, or they wanted to get the goal, or eventually that gets upsetting, right? But when they're young, you can kind of hide it a little bit more, or they're just running and playing, but actually no one's playing with them. Right. So depending on the child's temperament, which is a huge part of resiliency as well, and there's 9 temperament traits, and kind of looking at, where is my child struggling? Where do they need some help? And then how do we build those tools and those skills within them? Some children are just more work. It's just the reality, and we get frustrated. And I would say that's the common concern I get from parents. It's like, I've got the 9-year-old that can't figure it out, but the 5-year-old can. And you want me to set up a reward system for this child to brush their teeth and go and say hello to somebody? I'm not doing that because the 5-year-old's doing it.
Yeah, I agree. Do you find that facing that obstacle is an option, or the best option to try and overcome it? So, I have a friend whose little one struggled with being late. He could not handle being late to school, not even 5 minutes late. And their therapist said, sometimes allowing him to be late more often will also teach him that nothing bad's going to happen from being late. So do you find that hitting those head on is best? Or again, is it one of those, like, each scenario is different?
Every scenario is a little bit different, and what you're talking about is a very anxious temperament. So when you've got a child that has an anxiety disorder or has an anxious temperament, I'm a recovering pleaser. So I would always say yes to everybody else, but no to myself. And I became very resentful. I was brought up to be a nice girl and just to make sure everybody else was happy. But then I suffered. So for me to set boundaries and say, no, thank you, was very difficult, because I might upset somebody. Someone might get angry with me. I'll be embarrassed. It'll be shameful. And a lot of us have been brought up in shame and guilt. So we want to keep that hidden. So we do whatever we can so we don't feel that emotion. So yes, that is really tough to watch your children sometimes, and we just think, well, just get them on time. It's good to get to school on time. It's good to be respectful. But for this child, for them, they think if I get to school on time, then everything will be okay. And sometimes we have to teach them, even when things don't go well, it can still be okay. Or even if it wasn't okay, was it a 12 out of 10, or was it more of an 8 out of 10? And that's how, as they age, I think that's basically the answer, is that every child is different, and we have to help our children in different ways. And sometimes we just don't know. So we
That's
do
right.
have to seek out support. And that's why I help a lot of parents in my parenting coaching business, and even with my workshops and things like that, because the children don't come with a manual, right? So it's like, I'm doing all these things and I'm reading the blogs. What's the matter with me? Like, what's the matter with me as a parent? And we get defeated. And then sometimes we get into that shame and blame game where the school system isn't enough. They learned it from this other parent. This is what my uncle was like. And see, you got it from my uncle,
Yeah.
and let's
Yeah.
step back a little bit and say, where are the skills? What do they need? And can I give these skills to my child? Or do we have to reach out for some support, and then getting that support that is beneficial to you?
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm sure a lot of parents, even ourselves included, we parented, or we think we parented our children all the same way.
Yeah.
And all our children are so different.
Yes.
One
Yes.
likes to speak up, the other one's really quiet, the other one has anxiety. So
Yeah.
it's good to know that, yes, you might be parenting the same way, but you're parenting different people who have different traits. So I think that's really important.
Exactly.
Another practical scenario, and I'm not sure if this is resiliency or not, but it has to do with change.
Mhm.
And the change, something that I had experience with a friend in the past was their little girl. It took her time to get used to the winter versus summer wardrobe. So come winter time, when it was time for boots and hats and mitts and coats, took her about a month. She was living in shorts and sandals. And then finally she got used to the winter coats and the boots and the mittens. And then all of a sudden spring would come. And now, we're in June and she's still wearing her winter coat and hat. So is that a part of resiliency as well? Or is
Yes.
that a
So
different category?
this is sensory processing. I
Okay.
know these children. See, because I've seen, like, I'm talking thousands of people, like, a year. So I see a lot of these issues. So this is a sensory processing. A sensory processing disorder is actually not something that is a disorder in Canada, but you can see an occupational therapist for some help with this. So this child, it's a texture thing. I bet you they're picky eaters. I bet you that noise and things like that, there's certain things that, textures and noise and sights and like too bright. These are these kids that the tags have to be cut out. The socks, the seams are, they have their soft pants and their hard pants. And a lot of parents are like, oh my goodness, I thought they were going to grow out of this. So you can see an occupational therapist for that. And I think what it is too, so this is part of resiliency, because this child is struggling. So it's these types of things that that will I can't get my wording today, but the child struggling. So what are the barriers for them to succeed in life? So to become more resilient, if they have physical issues, right? Maybe they have a chronic illness, if they have sensory processing, if they have an anxiety disorder, if they have a parent that's an alcoholic that's not getting treatment, if they're living in a community that's unsafe, these are all things that are going to hurt their resiliency. It doesn't mean that the child cannot become resilient, but we have to work harder to support this child.
Yeah,
So
I love that. So
right?
what you're saying basically is that children have various obstacles.
Yes.
Some are physical, some are emotional, some
Yes.
are, a disorder, if any.
Yes.
And helping that child recognize, or you recognizing what that obstacle is, and
Yes.
helping them with tools to overcome them
Yes.
is part of being resilient.
That is exactly.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, we're going to have to talk more about sensory, because clearly that's another hot topic.
It is.
So
I've got a connection for you on that one. No problem.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Tell us where everyone can find you.
Yeah, so I'm at momthemanager.ca. I am Mom the Manager on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Overworked to Overjoyed. That's free. I go on there once a week. And I have YouTube, which is under Michelle McVitie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining in. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and watching. Please join our other podcasts. Have a listen. We've got a few with Michelle and all of our other experts. So thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Take care.